We are controlling transmission. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. Thrill to the awe and mystery of the hidden world, the outer limits. You will journey into strange realms of science fiction. You will journey through uncharted galaxies from the inner mind of man to the outer limits. The outer limits. Every week on ABC.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Good evening, everybody. Once again, it's time for another episode of To the Outer Limits. We are into Season 2, Episode 2, featuring William Shatner in Cold Hands, Warm Heart. Good to see Gabe Hardman. Good to see Andy Parks. How are you, boys?
Good. I mean, I'd probably be better if I hadn't watched this episode, but, you know, like, this is pretty grim. In a lot of ways. I mean, honestly, though, it's got William Shatner in it. It's, you know, and he's certainly the most lively, interesting thing about this episode. And it's got like a dumb fucking looking puppet that we see a couple of times, too many. And so that's kind of interesting, but
where did you find a color photo?
My God,
that's a model that was. I mean, that's the great thing about the Outer Limits. Even the lame episodes. If there's a bear, somebody made a model of it.
That is true. That is absolutely true. I think there'll be less of those throughout this season because they just had so much less money. But you know, and that's reflected in this episode. So like it's about you know, Shatner plays an astronaut who who goes on a sort of a trip to Venus that is supposed to be sort of a trial run for sending people to Mars. I still am not entirely clear on the logic of that. But, no. You know, even if that makes sense in a real world way, it doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense in a storytelling way. But it was ultimately he starts. There's like 8 minutes of downtime where he's not on radio. Nobody knows what happened. He doesn't remember what happened. But once he comes back, he starts getting colder and colder, and and that's it. That
really is it.
Like there's nothing else. Nothing of substance happens beyond that. So, and certainly nothing particularly dramatic.
I was struck by, you know, last week we talked about how Harlan Ellison hit you with some big ideas right off the bat. This guy's from another alien landscape. He's been bred for nothing but war, and now, boom, he's on our city streets. Oh, my God. And this one, before the credits hit you with the fact that this guy is fucking cold.
Cold.
He's really chilly.
Can't get warm.
He's going to get a little colder as well.
Absolutely.
And then eventually, inexplicably, he won't be cold anymore.
Love.
Yeah, it is.
It's the lesson of the Outer Limits. Love.
What's
love
that?
saves the day.
Yes, love. Okay, fine.
I don't think that's the lesson.
I don't think that was the lesson either. But, all right.
But I think that we're going to need to delve a little bit deeper into all of that and what this truly was about. But let's talk about I don't know, something else. What did you guys think about the episode?
I was going to point out that sadly, after being spoiled in the first episode with the writing of Joseph Stefano, the great directing of Gert Arswald, and even when your guy Mr. Conrad Hall wasn't shooting the thing, at least we got Doug Peach. Well, we might still have Doug Peach, but I'm sorry,
Ken Peach.
I always do that. Ken Peach. Dan Ullman wrote this one. Okay. It was directed by Charles Haas, and there's Kenneth Peach on direction. We even get the music from Dominic Frontiere.
Yeah, Dominic Frontiere. No, it's the music generic garbage.
Yep.
I would say the direction of Charles Haas, generic garbage. He was a guy who he had come up like just sort of through the ranks of the studios. He and like after the war, he wrote and produced this Frank Borzage movie, Moonrise, which is from 1948, which is kind of like his most notable credit. Otherwise, he became a TV director, a kind of journeyman TV director. He went into features, directed a bunch of kind of low budget exploitation movies like The Beat Generation, which was bizarre, with Mamie Van Doren in it, which bizarrely was apparently co-written by Richard Matheson. So I feel like this is something that I know I've seen this movie before, but I did not see it, from that point of view. Apparently Bob Justman, who was the first AD on this one, obviously went on to work with Shatner later on Star Trek. His quote about Charles Haas is, he was a nice man, but not a good director.
He nailed it on the HR Puffin Stuff episodes I saw when I was a kid. I'll say that.
Yeah, exactly. Perhaps that was his calling.
At least there's some interesting actors in this. They're not given much to do, but it is nice to see. I never know if his name is Malachi Thorne or Malachi Thorne, but he's Dr. Mike. He's Shatner's buddy that when he comes back, there's something wrong with me. Tell me, please. But don't give me a shot and don't give me a pill. Or no, he wants a pill.
I know him from my childhood because he's great in that Star Trek double episode.
The menagerie, right?
Yeah, the guy who never exists, it turns out.
Commodore Mendez, yes.
Right.
But that guy, the guy who just walks on the set with gravitas, he's got some weight to him.
He's Alexander Monday's spy master in the Robert Wagner It Takes a Thief. And also later on Next Generation, he plays the Romulan senator that's helping Spock reunify the Vulcans and the Romulans.
Yeah, that's right.
One of his later roles, but yeah.
Yeah, that's
I like that. Right. Wikipedia describes this episode as a Star Trek pre-Union.
Yes, everything except the quality material.
In fact, his character's space project is Project Vulcan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
And also we have mostly from Hill Street Blues, but also from Star Trek 3, Search for Spock, we have James B. Siking.
Yeah, no, I noticed him in there. He's a very brief role. He was in a lot of little stuff in the 60s because recently I noticed he was in Point Blank as the sharpshooter guy who tries to take out Lee Marvin in the LA River in that big sequence.
Yep.
Which is very cool.
Yeah, and then Lloyd Go, another fine character actor who had always previously been in a previous Outer Limits.
And speaking of being in previous Outer Limits, Geraldine Brooks, who plays Shatner's wife in this, she played the Culp's wife in Architects of Fear, and her being in this episode is almost crippling for the episode, at least for me, just because that episode is so fucking great, and it's about something so similar, and she's playing almost the exact same role, except with nothing to do.
Nothing.
And, and like, it just points out how weak it is, that an awesome episode like Architects of Fear, which, she still plays a sort of a wife character in, but there's just so much more there. And there's so much, and she delivers it. And, everybody is just scraping for something in this thing, I think.
Yeah. Shatner scraping for some Noxema for
yes.
his skin condition.
So, like, along the way, he sort of starts to physically transform into something, a Venusian, I guess. But apparently this was not a part of the original concept of it. It was just that ABC really wanted some kind of monster, so they added in the sad Mr. Show puppet monster, and they added in this business with him transforming.
Yes, I uploaded the photo. Yes, indeed. So again, here's a better shot in color of the Venusian, and the Mr. Show reference, my favorite Mr. Show sketch, frankly.
Yeah, the Titanic sketch, where I could not think of anything else, but this when that puppet was on screen, and apparently everybody else involved in this podcast was the same, because Andy posted a thing, Ian Brill posted a thing about it. Like, that's all any of us could think of.
That's very funny.
I found it interesting that, like his Twilight Zone episode, Shatner was at one point tormented by a thing out the cockpit window.
Right.
True.
Poor guy can't escape.
Imagine if that puppet was what was out. I mean, everybody complains about that bear guy looking goofy in the in the Twilight Zone episode, but imagine if it was that rod puppet. That would have been so amazing. One of the things about this is this was the first episode that they shot of the season, and this was the first script that the new story editor Celia Glester bought. This, right? I mean, like, that was the best that they could. That was the foot they were starting out on.
So I will say that I tried to put myself in the shoes of a 12-year-old kid watching this in 65, 6, where are we now?
64 still.
64.
Okay. And I think the idea of, holy shit, an astronaut, I'm going up in this thing alone, I face incredible dangers. I think all that might have been pretty appealing. It doesn't.
Oh, 100%.
It doesn't lead to a lot, but.
Well,
no.
But it's also cart before the horse. We know he's fine from the space mission. It's not like there was any,
right.
like we don't, there's no dramatic part of it that we're worried about him in space. It's him coming back and slowly getting cold.
Yeah, but again, it's space cooties, and it is this period of we don't know what's out there. I've referred before to that Arthur C. Clarke radio interview that I love that he does, and if we find planets with atmosphere, and if all this other stuff, and that's why the mystery of Venus. So I agree with Angie in terms of at least leading premise. There's something for a 12-year-old to grab onto, but there's no payoff.
Yeah, I know, but also fuck the 12-year-olds, right? Like, I mean, the good thing about the previous season was that there was stuff where you could be a 12-year-old and enjoy it for the the surface level of of just monsters and whatever, and you can be an adult and go, oh wait, there's a little bit more going on here, and it's kind of interesting.
What's really written about this new story editor? Do they go into did the Outer Limits book go into any sort of philosophy or lack thereof that this guy, in the Fred Freiberger sort of way of season 3 of Star Trek?
Right. Well, so the producer is this guy called Ben Brady, not Celia Glester. Celia Glester was the story editor, right? So, Ben Brady was just a sort of meat and potatoes producer who was not a writer. So unlike, both Stefano and Leslie Stevens, who both were writers as well as, producers, the Ben Brady was not a writer. So he was a guy who was just going to look to, most of the episodes this time were based on published works or something. I think this one was a screenplay initially. The Dan Ullman credit was actually the initial writer of it, and it was completely rewritten by this guy, Milton Crims, who was a Perry Mason writer. And basically, most all of these people kind of came from Perry Mason, which nothing wrong with Perry Mason, but it doesn't necessarily mean it lends to, doing this kind of work. That's where, Celia Glester, the story editor guy, came from as well. And he was the guy who, he was friendly with with Leslie Stevens, and Leslie Stevens said about him that he was the best thing about the second season. Right, the story editor guy was the guy who who at least
tried.
He was, yeah, and he was smart and he had taste, and and it wasn't like he was hopeless. It's just that circumstances were also not good. I mean, they had so little money. They had they had less time to shoot the episodes. It was all just, they couldn't do more than like 2 takes or whatever, right? And they couldn't do the kind of ambitious stuff like visually, either with the creatures or with the photography that they did in the last one, because they were still, they were always like, kind of horse trading and trying to, make a super low budget episode so that they could put more into another one. That ambitious stuff. Ben Brady didn't produce the show like that. It was very boilerplate, So I think that but the story editor guy of this crowd was one of the more talented ones. I don't know that he was necessarily well suited to this, but we'll see. I guess maybe it'll change. I mean, certainly to your point about Soldier, I had some quibbles with how that episode worked out, but it's fucking brilliant compared to this. I mean, it's not it's not the same kind of thing at all.
Well, again, we've got this handful of second season episodes that are still iconic. And, I'm not even going to go through the normal list and everything, but, and they're coming up. But, yeah, we're going to have to sit through a lot of crap in the process as well. Yeah, I don't even know if, really, because I haven't really given a serious count ever since we said we're going to do the full 17 to say, okay, there's 6 great ones. I believe there are around at least 6 or 5.
Well, I just have no idea. I haven't watched this, apart from Demon with a Glass Hand. And I guess The Inheritors, if that's...
See, and I would put...
I'm super interested to check out all these. I mean, just because I'm complaining endlessly about this episode doesn't mean that I'm not still interested in seeing how the rest of these go and having an open mind about it.
Absolutely.
Even though it sounds like I have a very closed mind.
No, and I'll throw in, because I expect, and also we're going to have a bit of a conversation about one of the stars of the episode I'm going to mention from the second season, and that's iRobot with Howard Da Silva and young Leonard Nimoy. That's an interesting episode to me. Not very ambitious from a visual standpoint, but it's a great story.
Sure.
So we'll talk about that when the time comes.
Definitely.
But as far as this episode, again, it's a shame because it does have a lot of great actors in it. And what is his wife's name again?
The actress is named Geraldine Brooks.
Thank you. She, I know. Well, I noticed in when I grab images from the My Life Within the Outer Limits blog that I see. I guess she wasn't a Stony Burke.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I remember that episode of Stony Burke. So,
I remember seeing her on Get Smart, and she's in a reasonably funny Get Smart episode that for its time was hilarious.
Yes.
Now,
look, I like Get Smart. I'm a Get Smart.
I love
fan.
Get Smart.
I'm not knocking Get Smart.
I was going to ask a couple production things. I'm a big fan of spotting stock footage. So I love the opening, the parade and all.
Parade. Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
And the intro of the guy coming out the window like an assassin, which is, I guess, there to lead us into the view of Shatner. I don't know what. Anyway.
I don't really know what the point of that was, although it very clearly was a, maybe like a writer's building office or something like that on, I think on the Paramount lot. Those fire escapes and stuff are all still exactly the same. So like it's always completely obvious when they just shoot a piece, just on the lot somewhere like that. And
I love the idea of Shatner sitting there in a car with them just raining confetti, and there's a close shot. He's like,
hey, yeah, I know.
That's one guy with a bucket.
There's a bucket. They're in the parking lot. They're like, come on, we gotta go grab this real quick.
So what I wasn't sure of, they walk into a pretty impressive set at one point. Where did you guys think that was with all the fanciful equipment and all that crap?
So I think that was actually at TRW Space and Defense, which was down in Redondo Beach in California, and is now Northrop Grumman. But I think that I know for a fact that the exterior is that. That's that exterior still looks like that basically now. Wow. It still has that building that they go into, but I couldn't find something that said specifically where that was, but I'm guessing it had to be. I mean, it seems to be they shot some MOS type, silent stuff there, and then they shot some pieces that were, against a little set and rear projection or something like that. I think that they didn't shoot the dialogue stuff in there, I don't believe. But
if they were able to go grab that cheap, it worked well. It's pretty impressive.
That was really good. Yeah, I think that was definitely an impressive piece to have in there. I mean, if the episode had been a little stronger, we would all be praising how awesome and realistic that was. Yeah.
Right.
Very true. Yeah, again, I mean, really, he gets cold. He, at one point, is drinking scalding coffee and thinks it's just lukewarm. And
okay, but wait. The thing from the beginning where he's making steaks, cooking steaks, I think, in a fireplace, in a, on like a fucking hibachi or whatever, right? And with coals in it. And isn't that so he passes out right after that. And I think we're supposed to believe that this has something to do with his, his transformation, right? But clearly he's a fucking idiot who gave himself carbon monoxide poisoning from, cooking, charcoal in the house.
I found myself wondering, is that something city people did all the time? Did they grill in their fireplaces? I've never seen such a thing.
We had a fireplace, but no, we still didn't do that. No.
Cannot imagine, right? But I also, like a lot of things in this episode, I can't figure out what they were going for with this, right? Because it's such a weird, confusing thing that he passes out, and it does seem like he probably just has carbon monoxide poisoning. But okay, so big picture, I have to ask the question: what the fuck is this episode about? Is there? I mean, I know that it's just very surfacey and everything, but it's about nothing to the point where you're almost forced to kind of imagine that there's something going on behind it.
Well, that's what I found myself. I was searching for a bigger theme, and I think, and at one point Shatner goes on kind of a Roddenberry rant about it's all progress. We're nothing if we don't keep progressing and learning, and we can't be stagnant, which was again and again in Star Trek, like a consistent theme. Happiness doesn't cut it. You got to keep going, keep pushing.
Right.
So I think the big theme, if there is one, is, this guy's willing to sacrifice it all, his health, his everything, because we got to keep pushing. We got to keep exploring.
Right. Which I think that's reasonable. So, I mean, I think you can draw that conclusion from this episode.
Well,
what is the story underneath the surface of what's going on here? An alien is transforming him into a Venusian type guy for what?
Yeah.
Why? What's behind any of this, and why? And why would he be cured of it by making his? I mean, apart from it being an incredibly self-conscious to the point of stylized thing where he accomplishes his goal of convincing them to continue Project Vulcan. And then he magically is cured of the thing that was. It's almost like a kind of. There's a fever dreamish sort of quality to it.
Right.
If the episode was more charismatic, it might even have a kind of interesting quality in that way, because it doesn't make any sense on a level that is almost like a dream, the way that it doesn't make sense. But it's just kind of a really boring dream.
I've got the closing narration, which might point to some effort of what this is about. The eternal, never-ceasing search for knowledge often leads to dark and dangerous places. Sometimes it demands risks, not only of those who are searching, but for others who love them. These, in their own special way, know that knowledge is never wasted, nor is love.
All right, so it turns out you're right. It was all about love. Love will prevail.
Love brought him back.
Yeah.
That Venusian had no chance.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
I thought you were speaking about the climax there where he goes in and he gets the money from the whoever. I thought it was amazing that he goes in to this big meeting. He says, "Guys, I got a cop." He pulls off his gloves and they die laughing at his third-degree hand burns.
Yeah,
I know. I
know that confused me as well.
But that's also part of that kind of fever dreamy quality to it. like they're laughing at this horrifying thing, and
Sure.
like I mean, even though that scene isn't even in the movie, or in the episode, it's there. We hear off camera that they're laughing, and the guy comes out very grave, like like we're supposed to be in suspense. That they thought that just the idea of going to Mars was hilarious, and then it turned out no, they just thought it was so fucking charming that he made it out like he burned his hands in this like irreparable way. So odd. But
then he started sweating, and they knew that he didn't have his cold problem anymore.
Right. Sure.
Do you feel hot? Yes, I feel hot.
So what do we feel about the Shatner of it all in this?
I always enjoy it. I find every time I watch him, I find myself marveling at how appealing he is and how ridiculous he is.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you weren't here, but this is the argument I was making to Gabe and Ian when we were talking about Incubus, and that Gabe's like, Shatner's on the ropes. He's he's kind of getting desperate, and I'm like,
I didn't say that. You actually brought up somebody else saying that in order to make your point. So
no.
Don't straw man.
Tell me what you said. Tell me what you said.
I didn't even bring it up. You just started. You just got all this.
No, you absolutely. I might be paraphrasing. I'll admit that.
We're gonna have to go to the transcripts on this one.
Shatner is really, was really kind of in desperate straits. Again, I'm paraphrasing. Tell me what you said when he accepted Incubus. And I'm like, no, he was making TV all the time.
Okay, look, you were saying that you brought that up. I probably said something a little dismissive about the point of his career, but you were super upset about the way other people were. No, somebody. Okay, you were not upset. We were all fine, but we were. But you had.
I defended him.
You defended him based on something about Star Trek in the current world where they were, where somebody had dismissed.
No. That was entirely a different point. But entirely different, and that was mostly off the air. But go on.
Either way, I think that please go ahead and get on your Shatner box and make your point. No, make the point. You didn't actually get around to making the point. That's
right. I'll go on with Andy. I think this period of Shatner, he is at his strength. His conviction to whatever bullshit they hand him, he will push it to the limit. It only became more apparent during those 3 seasons of Star Trek, but I would argue as well from Judgment at Nuremberg, where he actually, had acting with teeth in it, and also he had appeared on Broadway. I never saw it, but obviously had a very successful run on The World of Susie Wong, which is a very successful play. And then, again, it's funny, this one channel, because we're going to talk about his 1965 show, that only lasted a season because you and I watched it.
Yeah.
For the People. But I mean, there's a person that uploaded a bunch of episodes of For the People. They also uploaded a bunch of anthology shows that Shatner had done consistently from the 50s through the 60s to right up to Star Trek and Incubus.
Totally. Okay. So, point number one. I'm sorry, Andy. I just got to respond.
Yeah. Do it.
I have to. Okay. So point number one. You're saying that Shatner was a charismatic actor who you always enjoy. I agree with this.
No, not that I always enjoyed. That was always employable.
Point number two. Yes, he was employable, but that does. But your big point was that that people say that he would not. That had he not have Star Trek, his career might not have continued on. And I think that it's highly likely that he would continue on in the capacity of a, struggling working actor, which is what he had been for this entire period, going from, single episode to single episode of things, having one series that, that didn't work or not that it didn't work, but it just wasn't successful.
No,
the fact is, I think that there are just so many actors out there who had very similar career arcs, but didn't have some sort of iconic thing like Star Trek that would kind of keep them in the, in people's thoughts, in casting directors' thoughts. Even if it kind of typecast them, he was still able to get work, and obviously not after Star Trek, not great work for quite a while.
Oh no, agreed.
I mean, yeah, he was a working actor, but that's a tough life, and that's a very different thing from being a really successful actor. And that's the only thing that I'm saying.
But I would give it a notch above just working actor in that I believe producers would look at him with his looks and the way he acts and say, that's a leading man. I will find a project for him. And that's what I'm saying. Even if Star Trek hadn't happened, some sort of Western or drama or cop show.
It could have. It could have, certainly.
But, I believe it would have happened.
Okay, well, we can't prove a negative, so you're right.
We can't.
But the thing about him though, and just I've watched some other stuff of him from around this era, this week, and I think that the real thing though is he is a leading man. He's not a character actor because he can't play a character to save his life. He is a leading man. He plays the same thing every time. But he's a B leading man. He doesn't have that quality that would bump him up to somebody, who would have, he's great. I like him. I always enjoy him, but I feel like he has a ceiling, and I think that's in a way why Star Trek was perfect for him.
There's a guy from that period. He was no Robert Redford.
Well, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. I think that's a perfect example, actually, because Robert Redford just had that little bit of extra thing. Robert Redford, not a character actor either, a movie star who
you couldn't take your eyes off him.
But yeah, and I think Shatner has a lot a lot, but
I think so too.
He has limits,
Oh, sure. And, but then again, in his older years, and I won't deny playing a variation of himself. His Boston legal success speaks for itself. I mean, that's the thing. You both know, being the old movie buffs and really people that follow this stuff as dedicated as you do, there are actors and there are stars and there are star vehicles. And yes, he is lower on the list of the Jimmy Stewarts, the Gables that always brought their persona to each role. But I would say that he is in that mold, just way, way, way down the list.
Sure. Yeah. I think he just couldn't rise that high because of a kind of, he had a sort of limited persona. Yeah, he definitely was able to exploit different stuff later on. And he was, and he's not in the mold of being like a young leading man anymore. So that opens him up as a character.
But don't you think
do other stuff later?
Don't you think in another, again, Outer Limits rep, who we will see again in second season, I would compare Shatner to Robert Culp.
Yeah, I think that they're similar. I mean, I think that I think Culp has a little bit more relatability or something to him. I feel like he's a little bit more of a human being type actor. But I think that he was also a guy who, he was a leading man. Yeah, he was a leading man type guy who had a ceiling in his career, and he was in features, but not not enormously successfully. He had probably a better career in ways than Shatner did, and he probably had a better career for the fact that he didn't have that one single identifiable role the way Shatner did.
There you go.
But
we want to talk about For the People?
Let's talk about some other Shatner stuff. One of the things that I ended up watching, John watched, is this at least I just watched the first episode of it, the pilot episode for this For the People show from 1965 that is really a super interesting show. It's very dynamic. It's sort of and it has this really kind of energetic, punchy sort of quality to it. He plays an assistant district attorney in New York. A lot of it is shot on location in New York, if not the whole thing. I'm not sure. And there doesn't seem to be a ton of information about the show out there. But Shatner is really good in it. It's a really interesting show. I was kind of surprised by how, I mean, I know I talk about the way the camera is used a lot, but it's really cool. Even in the terrible version of it that's on, terrible quality version of it that's on YouTube. There's a very Orson Welles-y sort of quality to the way that everything, they're we're on wide lenses, we're moving around, people are blocked in shots. It's very fast paced. It's
it felt very in your face. The actors are often up here and
with a wide lens. Yeah, we're close with a wide lens, so people are really occupying that frame. And and you get that sense of intensity that's a little like the kind of intensity of like a John Frankenheimer live TV episode or something. Like, but it also has the the upside of being shot on film, and scenes will cut without obvious transitions. There'll be just like these hard cuts into other scenes and stuff that was very contemporary, feels like ahead of its time in a certain way. Now I'm slightly obsessed with the show, so I'm going to watch the rest of it.
Oh, me too, man.
It's pretty damn interesting.
I was really thankful for that link because it was not something I was aware of at all.
Neither. I wasn't aware of it until this week when I just started looking up other things that Shatner was in around the same time, and thought, oh, maybe this thing is on YouTube. But
I had read an article about it and seen a picture of him in a courtroom from an episode, and had been looking on YouTube forever. I do notice that these were recently uploaded to YouTube. It was created by the guy who also was the producer on the show The Defenders, the E.G. Marshall, Robert Reed lawyer show. And his name is Herbert Brodkin was the executive producer. But I was telling Gabe, ironically, before he alerted me that it was up on YouTube, I was listening to a television writer's oral history interview at the TV Academy, Ernest Kenoy. And Ernest Kenoy has a lot of great TV credits over the years, and he was a consistent Defenders writer. And he spoke about For the People. And he said, because literally as the Defenders wrapped up, the producer was like, all right, well, we looked at defense attorneys. Let's try looking at it from the prosecution standpoint. And it's, Shatner, Howard Da Silva, one of my favorite formerly blacklisted actors.
I love that guy.
With a cheeseball mustache, but that voice you cannot ignore.
Yeah.
Who also shows up in later on this season in Outer Limits on iRobot.
Oh, does he? Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. Oh, he's
For the People is right before his whole career kind of went in another direction because of 1776.
Oh, I don't even know it.
Right, Benjamin Franklin. Yeah.
Okay, right.
Him as Ben Franklin in that film is one of my favorite performances ever.
Funny, I've never seen that.
Have you guys ever heard the story of him on Broadway doing that thing?
No.
So I think he knew that this thing was going to change his life. He knew he was killing it. And something like a week before opening curtain, he has a heart attack. And he says, fuck that. The critics are going to see this shit. So he muscled it out and got to opening night, got his reviews, and promptly went to the hospital.
Oh, wow.
A stand-in came in and did the next 2 months and appeared on the Broadway recording album.
Wow.
But if you get the movie, obviously Da Silva came back in time for the movie, and he's fucking phenomenal in the movie, and he's on that soundtrack.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's one of those movies I've just never seen for whatever reason.
I personally, it's tough to struggle through some of the songs.
Really? I watch it every year. I love that.
I totally do as well, man. And Ken Howard and what's his face from Knight Rider, the voice of the car? William Daniels.
William Daniels, yeah.
Yeah, so Ken Howard is Tom Jefferson. William Daniels is John Adams. Da Silva is Ben Franklin. But it's a ton of great character actors, and it's really the debate about the Declaration. It's incredible. It's excellent. And the other great Da Silva performance that I love from the early 70s was The Missiles of October, the television play with William Devane as Kennedy, Martin Sheen as Robert Kennedy.
God, I haven't seen that in ages. I have to watch that again.
I bought the DVD, Da Silva as Nikita Khrushchev, and it's fantastic. It's so, and John Randolph is in it. And so many good character actors. John Daner plays Dean Acheson.
Probably my favorite TV character actor.
Oh, I love John Daner.
Yeah. And, also an animator at times. He's a fascinating guy.
And he was the radio voice of Paladin on Have Gun Will Travel. Oh, great actor. Great actor.
The John Daner autograph is maybe on the top of my list right now.
Oh, that'd be great. I don't blame you, man. That'd be amazing. Absolutely. God, who Ralph Bellamy is Adlai Stevenson. All right, I'm done. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I just wanted to say that also Jessica Walters in the recently
really good.
part of Jessica Walters in the For the People episode, and she's great. She
really is great.
Yeah.
And beautiful. I mean, this is really early Jessica Walters.
Oh yeah. No,
she looks fantastic.
Looks amazing, and she does a great job. And and I think that it's, I mean, I think that there's probably some element of, you were talking about the kind of defense attorney versus prosecutor thing. And I think that just, prosecuting attorneys are just not that sympathetic in a lot of ways. Right. It's like, I don't know that you really want to come back to a show every week and watch, the jerk, the asshole of the courtroom,
He's the assistant DA, and that's why De Silva, it seems, based on the 2 episodes I've seen so far now, is pretty much the system is set up that way. Don't make waves.
Yeah.
Whereas Shatner's like, no, wait a minute, a man's life is at stake.
And though it's there's a kind of sophisticated, dynamic there where it's not just that he's the crusading guy. It's like, the beginning of the first episode is him being set up to look like a total chump in court. And, and I love that. Like, there's nothing better than the hero getting humiliated at the beginning of your story. It's, you got great places to go from there,
The Defenders was like that as well. They didn't win every time. Right. And this is that period of that famous George C. Scott show, East Side, West Side, as well. And that's what this kind of television, it's that era and that kind of smart TV that, they were capable of and not afraid of in the early 60s. And I'm really glad that it's up.
Yeah, and also just a lot of different interesting tones about it. The stuff at the beginning where we're like handheld following him into the court, and there's there's reporters asking him questions and stuff, and then later we're like outside with reporters in a very just like sort of banal moment, like this sort of 70s movie atmosphere moment that you never see on TV shows in that way. Certainly from that time, which I don't know. I thought that the whole thing was super interesting. And sophisticated, like a smart, sophisticated show that seemed to be kind of firing on all cylinders. So, yeah.
Well, the 3rd episode is the one that I watched. I've downloaded.
That was the link you sent. So that's
okay. And it had Nicholas Colasanto, coach from Cheers, in a role. He was one of the cops.
Yeah.
And Philip Bosco, isn't that how you say his name? Bosco.
I think it's Bosco.
Yeah, he's like unrecognizable because it's 30 years before you saw him in Working Girl or whatever. Right. Any of his great 80s or 90s, I guess 20 years before those roles when he was a senior citizen. Right. But it's funny because in that one, it's a police, ironically, of the times right now, it's kind of a police brutality episode where a Hispanic boy is convicted of murder or is being tried for murder. And the police rough a confession out of him but he didn't do it. And,
I just showed my son Touch of Evil about a month ago, so I was thinking about the parallels there with getting the kid in the apartment and slapping around until he gives it up, all that stuff.
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
but no, it's
and then it was the brilliance of that is just that it was both wrong and he ended up being the guy responsible.
Right. Yeah, right.
So, but no,
I made a note, John. So I went all out tonight. I have notes. I have a light in front of my face. I elevated my computer. I mean, I'm doing everything Anyway, I made a note, John.
Absolutely.
I think it was Geraldine who is married to your buddy Bud Schulberg. Did I read that right?
Oh, I didn't realize it's the same. Oh my!
Really, I didn't know that.
Holy shit! I've met her then because
I knew there was a connection, but
when I was hanging out and I was like Mark in Ironside. I was pushing Bud Schulberg around in his chair just so he didn't have to. He could walk, he just didn't want to walk. And it was it was either the De La Hoya fight or it was the Lennox Lewis rematch with Hasim Rahman. So it was a very big fight though at Mandalay Bay. And at the end of the night, holy shit, because Geraldine and the 2 kids came. And
she did marry him in 1964 and must have been married to him until he died, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, she stayed with him.
No, she died in 1977. So
then I did meet her. Excuse me.
She only lived to be 51. So
then I did not meet her. No. Because I'm like, oh, my God, because really his wife and his 2 kids who were like late teens, 20s picked him up after me. And then, the son's like, I got it. No problem. And she's like, are you all right? Are you all right? The wife. And it's like, no, it's just a lot of walking. Bert was there, Bert Sugar. But yeah, that's funny. I had no idea she was married to Bud Schulberg. That's amazing. My God, Bob.
If you have not seen this episode and you're wondering if you should watch it, there are some things to recommend, but particularly Shatner has an amazing scene where he flails a great bit. He flails around his apartment in very kind of faux slow-mo, tortured way.
He's a great flailer.
Good
yeah,
Shatner,
he really is.
Yeah.
There really is. I mean, he fucking commits to things, and,
well,
there's nothing I like
his
better than committing. Like I that's my favorite thing in actors is when they will just go for it, no matter what the material is. That's
why he's an exceptional cat picker.
Why one of my favorite actors is Peter Cushing, because Peter Cushing could be in literally any piece of garbage, and he is taking it so fucking seriously, and he will do. He will obviously have figured out physical business to do, things that to improve scenes, things to make everything more dynamic, and will always absolutely commit to that material. And so. Yeah, I like that about Shatner. That's but what people think of as hammy, is it? Yeah, sure, it's hammy, but it's also just like a real commitment to the material.
Right.
Are you guys going to watch the Turner Classic Movies Festival? The stuff they're going to do online?
I don't know. I hadn't actually thought about it that much. I've just been so busy with work. I don't.
Have you ever been to one of those things, Gabe?
Yeah, several times. To the actual festival when it was going on. Oh yeah. It was. I mean, I never, unlike all of the classic movie people that I follow on Twitter or whatever, and then would see there, I was always working on something. I never had the time to get a pass and go to everything the way that I would love to. But I would always go to at least several screenings and, try to get into whatever I could, whatever I could manage. And it was always great stuff. I mean, I've talked about it many times, but seeing John Carpenter introduce the original Scarface was awesome, because John Carpenter seems like the gruffest, most unpleasant guy who never wants to talk about anything. But then as soon as he's talking about Howard Hawks or something he's interested in, he's super animated and charming. That, or I don't think there was a guest, but I went to a midnight screening of World's Greatest Sinner, the Timothy Carey movie, which absolutely is worth watching. I mean, it's terrible, but it's such a bizarre scream from the id. It's like a crazy cult movie. I mean, and Timothy Carey, right? The crazy actor.
No, I'm gonna have to look him up right now.
You know him. He's in tons of stuff, but he was in. Unless for some reason I'm saying his name wrong, but I don't think so. But
crap.
He's in The Killing. He's in the Kubrick movie. He shoots the horse, the racetrack, and he's also he's in Head, the Monkeys movie. He follows him around and yells at him, weird things occasionally, which I guess that doesn't distinguish much for that movie. So there were just loads of. It was always a great experience going to that thing, and I can't tell you how much I wish that it was going on. And if it was going on, I would do everything I could to go see stuff in person.
Well, the online programming sounds cool, and they're not only going to do stuff on online and on TCM, but they're also doing special programming on HBO Max as well. And among the things I noticed, they're going to examine the horror films of Michael Curtiz.
Oh, interesting.
Dr. X.
Oh, yeah, right.
Well, I forgot that he did Dr. X. That's awesome.
Yeah. Wait, is Dr. X the two-strip Technicolor one, or am I thinking of something else?
I thought Dr. X was the Bogart. Maybe that's Dr. Death or something different. What's the one where Bogart's got the white face and kind of a ghoul?
I can't remember. I know exactly what you're talking about, but
that's the one they punished him. They were punishing him and putting him in a shitty horror movie. Yes. But they're also going to do a Tex Avery look at a bunch of his cartoons and have an expert talking about that. I notice for West Side Story, there's going to be a cast reunion conversation with Rita Moreno, George Chakiris, and Russ Tamblyn.
Oh, cool.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, you're right. Dr. X is the two-color Technicolor master.
Yeah, two-strip Technicolor. Yeah, it's. I believe this is what there was just a restoration of it. It just came out on Blu-ray, so that was something that I had been meaning to pick up. So, yeah, stuff about that sounds really interesting.
And then I'm looking to see if they're going to have Danny Glover is going to discuss the color purple in Grand Canyon and his career.
Oh, Grand Canyon, really? Like he's in that great. What's it called? To Sleep with Anger. The super.
Mother Man Sleep with Anger, the fine film.
No.
Okay.
But
featuring Tori Spelling.
Yes, yeah, that is correct. That actually is probably a better movie than Grand Canyon, though. But yeah, well, I'm not gonna knock Danny Glover for
No. And then wait, there's more. Ali McGraw is gonna do something. Martin Short, Barry Levinson, Barbara Koppel, the documentarian, Steve McQueen, Rob Reiner, and Mira Nair.
Mira Nair, yeah. So To Sleep with Anger is this Charles Burnett movie. He's this African American director from South Central Los Angeles, and he made he made a couple of I think he went to the AFI and made a couple of like short format movies that like Killer of Sheep and some influential indie things, and then in 1990 he made that To Sleep with Anger movie, which is this really interesting, almost magical realist story set in contemporary Los Angeles that and Danny Glover's amazing in it, and I just recommend checking it out because it's a super interesting movie.
Yeah. Very cool. I would also suggest a schlocky movie that he made that's on the Sci-Fi Channel, and that is a sci-fi Moby Dick where he is Captain Ahab.
Wow. I think it says a lot about each of us that those are our choices, but go ahead. Yeah.
We can wrap. I don't know what else we have to talk about as far as COVID.
I think that we're basically done here. This was maybe a little bit of a low energy episode all around. So I think that our commentary fitted that. What were we going to do? Get all excited about this guy getting cold? It was
for next week.
Yeah.
I just want to play it safe. And we can just, if we could have a short show meeting. Can we do it Wednesday night instead of Thursday because I'm getting my second injection and just in case I'm knocked out from it?
Right. I think that should be all right. I just have to check my schedule, but say that we're going to do that, and hopefully it'll be fine.
It should work for me. What do we got next week, John?
Episode 3, and I did have it up earlier. I don't right now, unfortunately.
Yeah. I meant to write it down. Is it not Brand Eck or whatever?
It's the one about the optometrist who makes special glasses and you can see an alien.
Oh, a little They Live prequel.
Oh yeah, right, totally. So we should all revisit They Live in order to
there you go.
Have something further to talk about.
A great movie,
super fun movie.
Love that movie. Possibly Roddy Piper's best movie. Possibly. It is. What?
No hell comes to Frogtown.
I was going to say, really, Frogtown's better. All right, if you say so.
It's not.
I've come here to watch Quality Outer Limits and They Live, and I'm all out of Quality Outer Limits.
Yes, 100%. All right, I guess we're done.
All right, thanks, Ange. Good seeing you. Good seeing Gabe. Good seeing everybody.
Good seeing you, boys.
Thank you as always, everybody. We'll talk once again and take ourselves to the outer limits. Thank you very much.